good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist, conversation with yours truly, Dion Parson. Before we get our show started tonight, I'd just like to give a special shout out to everyone in Switzerland, in Geneva, in Zurich, because our guest resides from there, and he's a wonderful, amazing, talented pianist that I've had the pleasure of working with for a number of years on various projects in person through the pandemic, and you'll get a chance to hear some of the things that we've worked on together. But please join me in welcoming our guest tonight, Mr. Alex Wilson.
Greetings.
Hey, Alex, how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you.
That's good, man. What time is it in Switzerland right now?
It's technically late o'clock.
8 o'clock. I like that. I like that. Well, you're a musician, so I know you pull those late night hours and get home from a gig and the kids are waking up and you right into it. Well, man, thanks for joining me tonight. It's a pleasure having you on the show. I know we've been discussing this for a while and you've finally been able to squeeze us into your schedule. But, you've been doing some wonderful things in Switzerland and throughout England, and well-known, well-versed on a number of Afro-Caribbean projects, as well as a number of jazz projects as well. So why don't you, let's start by you sharing with our audience, just giving them a little background of how you got into music, your musical upbringing.
Well, my father was an amateur pianist, so he is an amateur pianist. And we had a grand piano at home, and I started by kind of crawling around underneath it, bumping my head on the legs and stuff, and then climbing my way up to the stool and having a go at playing. So piano was always in my life as a child.
Nice.
But when skipping forward to 11 years old, when the music school came into our college, into our school, and offered lessons, and they were auditioning, and I'd been messing around with the guitar as well, and they said, okay, young man, play a bit of guitar for us. And I played a few nice arpeggios, and it said play some piano, and it was a upright piano, so I had to have my back to them, and I played this boogie woogie thing I was working on. And keep in mind, this is the Viennese Conservatoire. And I just heard some kind of sniggers and laughs behind my back. And I turned, and then I finished, and he went, I think you should play guitar, young man. So I ended up learning guitar till I was about 17 years old.
No kidding. No kidding. They just dismissed you because you went into the boogie woogie ragtime thing, huh? Wow. So you actually started later on, and that was your decision to switch from guitar to piano. Okay. And once you made that switch, did you have a private teacher? I mean, how did you jump into it?
I had that in classical guitar. So, I did 5 or 6 years of classical guitar. By the way, beautiful. I loved it. But I was just a bit lonely. And I love playing in, the way last time we worked together, these wonderful ensembles. And even as a teenager, I knew I wanted to play with ensembles. And I had a music teacher who was not into jazz at all, but all credit to him. He said, if you want to do this, I will give you the space to create your jazz band at school. And so I formed a jazz band from the students available. And I've kind of been doing the same thing since then, on various levels.
Okay, great, man. So you formed your first jazz band in school, and that kind of on piano. You were playing piano.
Yes, I was playing piano and directing and arranging. And I said, this music teacher, Mr. Billington, I mean, I'd be forever grateful to him because he just kind of, all right, that's your dream, go for it. See how far you can go. And that's how I was kind of launched into everything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What I like is, just you telling me that story. When I met you and we did that first gig in Finland with Samuel Blazer, he was kind of looking at you as like the MD, the musical director of the evening, and you had everything covered, all the music, all the stuff. And now, seeing how you operated and pulled that project together when we all, because that was first time we all played. And I came from the Caribbean. Ira came from upstate New York. We had the wonderful saxophone player,
Soweto Kinch.
Kinch, yes, so with the Kinch, and our guy in guitar, and it was just amazing how everybody came together, and you just knew what everybody needed to do. So from back then in your early learning, you always had this kind of way of orchestrating things for everyone.
Yeah. I was just fortunate to be given that opportunity. And, you know, the thing I love the most is, and it was all on paper those days, there was no computers to write music as such. It was late 80s. And so, you know, writing an arrangement, handing it out to the musicians, and suddenly it comes to life. And I find that so rewarding. I'm now doing that online, sending PDFs all over the world. And then the recordings fly back into this room here, and I put it together, but essentially the same thing.
It's actually the same thing. So not only are you writing and orchestrating, a lot of the projects you do, you basically just send stems to musicians, have them perform them, and they send them back to you. And so you actually engineering and mixing and you know, creating the project in your own studio as well.
Yes. I call this like a production suite, or the fancy name, but it's a production suite here. It's not so much a recording studio. Occasionally I record stuff in here, but it's basically a production suite. And I do have very skilled engineers who I send the stuff out to mix. But what I do, an artist will walk into this room, either virtually or actually, and explain what they want. And I kind of bring it to life from this room with all the team of musicians all over the world.
Nice. And I really enjoyed working with you during the pandemic when we put the Cosmic Dawn project together. And I was in the studio in St. Thomas, and you guys would send, like, you know, sample tracks, and this is what I want. I would lay down the drums and send it back. He's like, okay, here's the next song.
I mean, I thank you for your patience. You know, I've got these electronic things that I put just together here, just to give the musician an idea of what. Of course, they make it bigger or larger or more creative, bring it to life. But yeah, musicians do have to put up with my virtual instruments.
Well, the good thing is, you know, your versatility really shows, because you send, at least what you sent me, it was in the ballpark so much that I really, from the groove, I mean, the fills are a different thing. You know, you have to make the fills, and some of the tracks we did, because as the soloists lay down their parts, then I adjusted some of my fills to complement the soloists. But you have to hear what everybody's doing and kind of put down a sample bass track, a sample guitar track, a sample piano track, a scratch vocal track. I mean, you have to kind of create a song and then send it to everybody and say, delete that and put your part in. And it's a new form of recording, I must say to you, because I remember when the pandemic hit and we were shut down, I was talking to my friends, and everybody was trying to figure out how are we going to make music. And a lot of guys was talking about exactly what you did. So once we got those tracks going, and I saw what you and Samuel was trying to do, it made a lot of sense. And the engineer I was working with in St. Thomas he was well versed in receiving and sending stems.
Good.
Because he did a lot of gospel recordings, and a lot of his guys were in the South and in the Midwest doing gospel songs, and in LA. So he was versed in that. So it worked out very well. And but it's really amazing how you can just hear everything. I'm a drummer and I hear stuff too, but I would get the tracks back, and I was like, wow, it went from, you know, a nice sample,
a demo,
a whole. It was just beautiful. Yeah,
I thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, I think you have to form an orderly queue, as it were. And I think what I've learned is, and I live in a village here in Switzerland, so I'm hardly in the kind of white heat of creation here in terms of musicians around me. So I've been doing this a long time before the pandemic. And what I've learned is you have to schedule everybody very carefully. And you don't put the next person in until the previous person has finished recording, so that you get a sense of interaction, and it's not just people guessing what might happen. That's one thing I learned, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing how it all came together. So I just
Thank you.
want to applaud you on that, because that's a special skill set that you have. And like you said, you was doing it before the pandemic. So
Yeah.
when the pandemic hit, it just
Mhm.
kind of, I'm sure it escalated and took you to another level, because a lot of people were calling you for
Yeah.
assistance in getting a lot of music done for their various projects, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was fortunate. I mean, we all hope that will never happen again, but you know, you just kind of develop these survival skills, don't you?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's one of the hats that you wear, you know, producer, creator, putting songs together. You know, we talked about you as you develop and switch from guitar to piano, putting bands
Yeah.
together and making that happen. We've
Mm.
worked with some of the same people. I know you did the farewell tour for Ernest Ranglin.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about working with Papa Ranglin, because I've worked with him for about 4 years prior to you joining the band. But
Yeah.
he's a special musician that have brought so much to the table that not too many people know of. But you were able to share the stage with him on many occasions. You know, share with our audience how it was working with Ernest Ranglin.
Well, it was fantastic. I see that as one of the highlights of my career. You know, such a feel so fortunate that he invited me for his farewell tour. I played with him previously, on and off, in and out, but then he asked me to do his farewell tour, and he really, you know, it's like playing with history on the stage. I mean, you understand the whole lineage of Jamaican music if you just watch him play guitar, because he's very percussive as well. He's got all the Nyabingi stuff going on just through that, all just breathes, and all the jazz language and the melodic beauty and the sense of humor. He's got a fantastic sense of humor. I mean, he's just, I always kind of question people when they play reggae, particularly here in Europe. Well, how much of the history do you know? And I go to guitarists, well, could you play around this wrangling thing there? And if they go, oh yes, of course, then I'm like, right, you know your history. You haven't just listened to a couple of Bob Marley CDs and copied it, you know. And I mean, not everybody gets a chance to work with the original generation, but you can study and learn from them. And I'm so glad I got the opportunity to do that. And really, and my piano hero is Monty Alexander. And every time I sat on the stage, I thought, well, at one point, Monty was sitting in this chair, so I really have to do this justice.
Oh yeah, yeah, and Monty, because I work with Monty as well. Monty was brought up by Ernest in Jamaica. You know, Monty is one of Ernest was one of Monty's mentor, and it's great that lineage is still around and happening, because a lot of folks don't really know that Ernest was there from the beginning, the creation of reggae and one drop and ska. He was in the Scatolites, and he's credited for that skank beat on the guitar, skank, 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 skank. You know, and that's a bit of history. And you mentioned his jazz, his technique playing jazz music is incredible.
Yeah. Still is, you know, still is. He would come out with this beautiful bebop phrasing and in the middle of a tune. It was really, really a lovely man and a lovely musician.
Yes, Papa Ranglin. Well, I'm glad we both have that in common, because Ernest is a rare gem. And did you get a chance to record with him? I know you toured, but did you guys ever record any CDs?
No, we did
No?
not record. I was towards the kind of earlier in my career, I was called to be on an album with him, and I was just on tour with my own projects and couldn't do it. My biggest regret is that I was called for the tour with Sly and Robbie, Ernest Ranglin, and myself, and that was 10 years ago, and I couldn't do it because I was on tour with Rodrigo and Gabriela, the Mexican guitarists, and I was their musical director, and I just couldn't leave them. I just couldn't leave, couldn't drop them in it. And now this will never happen, you know. I mean, that's the life of a freelancer. You can't do everything.
You can't do everything. That's true. That's true. Well, you've been in good grace with Ernest Ranglin, and you've touched the stage with a lot of great musicians. Can you tell us your choice of music, because you have a unique background, you're growing up the way you did, and you've chosen to play jazz, but you don't only play jazz. If I didn't know, I would say you're Caribbean musicians that play a lot of music from the Afro-Caribbean diaspora, and that's how we met. We met playing on a reggae tour. You cover so much of the Caribbean spectrum. What's your choice of music, and tell us a bit about how you got involved in playing a lot of Caribbean music?
Well, I think diaspora is the key word. My grandfather was from Sierra Leone. He was Minister of Education there.
Okay.
He was a Sierra Leonean. So I'm 1/4 Sierra Leonean and 3/4 English. So I think very much the music I played reflects that part of my background, and also my international background, because I grew up for 1 year in Sierra Leone, England, but also Austria and Switzerland, where I went to international schools with 40 nationalities. And then my musical career was launched in London, which is a diaspora hot pot, melting pot. And so I would consider myself maybe as a world jazz musician. I have the jazz as fundamental basis of what I do, but I think I know that I've concentrated on world jazz projects. For example, the music I brought to the show, there's a Cuban jazz, there's a soul jazz one, there's a Paraguayan guitarist, there's Colombian jazz, and that's my comfort zone, working in different languages with diasporic styles.
Definitely. Well, I heard it once I was listening to the music that you sent, and I said, this is, what I'm enjoying about this show is most pianists that I've worked with are in the jazz EDM, and they know about other styles, but not many of them actually live in those styles and work within those styles predominantly, and that's your forte. So I'm really excited about what you're bringing to the show and what you're sharing. So how, because when I think about Europe, it's Europe is what Europe is, but you say you grew up you went to school in an international academic setting, which allowed you to learn a lot of different cultures. And what I'm hearing is that you've chosen to be versatile versus to stay in one lane. So that's your comfort zone. Colombian music, Parisian music, music of the Caribbean diaspora, Jamaican reggae. You work with a lot of artists in that field, and that's really great. And that's what I would like for you to talk more about that. But I would like to play your first song. We have a song queued up that we have here, and once we play it, I would like for you to share how that came about, and specifically talk about the musicians, because it's really great for me to hear this music coming from Switzerland. So that's what I'm really enjoying right now. So your first song is a composition entitled Danson Gloria. It's and can you just a brief introduction of how that composition came about?
This is a collaboration with the Cuban violinist Omar Puente, who lives in London, and he wrote this song for his mother. And it's a traditional danson which follows the classical form of A, B, A, C, A, D, A, and then A, and then goes. It kind of encapsulates everything I love about diasporic music, because it's got the classical element, and then it's got the Cuban and originally African beat underneath, and we've got solos, and it just covers everything I love.
Okay, great. So let's take a listen. Danson Gloria.
Please welcome Omar Puente and Alex Wilson.
Very nice. Danson Gloria. Yes, sir. And
Oh,
that
it was-
was
it
written
was-
by the violinist, right?
That was Omar Puente, and we were in the Swiss Alps there playing. You saw the sign Ronnie Scott's, which of course is the iconic jazz club in London, and they
Right.
take Ronnie Scott's and they recreate it up in the Swiss Alps with the tables and the candles and the portraits on the wall and the sign and everything. It's amazing, and it's like stepping into London, you know. But you're in the Swiss Alps in
I
Terrat.
actually thought it was Ronnie Scott's in Soho. Yeah. Great. So that's in Switzerland, in the Swiss Alps. That's great, man.
Mm.
Beautiful song. I enjoy playing dancehall music. It's really great. It's a nice feel, a nice vibe, and the history of it is dance music. I was waiting for the audience to get up and dance.
Yeah. Well, you know, the jazz audience, you know, we did get them up by the end, but this was like a sitting, drinking audience as well, which I
Nice,
like,
nice.
actually. I must say, I like that. And we do that show, we do a lot of listening, and then at the end, everybody gets up. So you get kind of the respect of just listening to every note, but then also we get everybody joyfully joining in at the end. So
Great. And that's Edwin Sands on drums, percussion also, right?
yes,
Yeah.
he's a multi-percussionist. You'll see he's playing congas in one hand, they're kind of drums in the other, and it's one of his
Right.
specialities.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's so talented. I enjoy that. I've seen him on a number of other projects. I enjoyed listening to him very well. Yeah. And who's the bass player?
Dimitris Christopoulos from Greece.
From Greece. Christopoulos,
yeah.
huh?
And he's in Switzerland a lot. That's actually my trio. So then we play with different artists, and Omar's one of the artists. And Dimitris just loves Cuban music. That's why he plays specialist in that area.
Great. So one of the things I'm glad you mentioned your trio, because one of the things I notice that you have is you have a working trio that you kind of use to back up a number of different artists, and it shows your versatility, which is awesome. So congratulations on that. But it also shows your ability to pick musicians that are well versed. So tell me some of the groups that you're working with, you're affiliated with your trio.
Well, we've backed quite a few people here in Europe in the past. Malia, who's a jazz artist, she had great success, and she's kind of very influenced by Nina Simone. She's a Malawi British artist, so we did a tour with her. We've done obviously trio shows in our own right, and then we've done some more commercial stuff as well, where we went to the Maldives and put like a Caribbean reggae show together. We also backed Orlando Poleo, who's one of the foremost conga players. He's from Venezuela. He lives in Paris. And that was great because he's also Venezuelan. So Edwin was kind of playing with one of his gurus, and that was great fun. So yeah, it's a nice, versatile little unit that can be like a chameleon, bit like a chameleon.
Right. And you also do work with the great vocalist Carol Thompson as well.
Yes, that's right. We're doing a new project. We've done one show so far, and we're revoicing her music and creating some new music as well in a acoustic jazz context. So Carol Thompson is well known for being at the forefront of lovers rock, a very kind of romantic reggae style that your listeners might know, come out of London in the 80s. And any black family of a certain generation will have had Carol Thompson playing in the living room in the 80s and 90s.
Exactly.
And it's so nice when you play the shows, these people come up to, including some of my African family there, and they go, "Oh, I remember that." And she's just really, got into the soul of the British people in that sense.
Right.
Now we're recreating some of her songs in a jazz context. Interestingly enough, talking about versatility, using the same musicians as from the 80s, because just like Ernest Ranglin is also a jazz musician, these guys, Kenrick Rowe, Alan Weeks, they're all jazz musicians as well as the best reggae.
Those guys you just mentioned, those are guys from Jazz Jamaica, right?
Exactly. So that's the project that they play with Carol. We play all together for Carol.
Okay. Yeah, Jazz Jamaica. I was so blown away when I would visit England on various occasions with Monty Alexander, Ernest Ranglin, and all of those guys from Jazz Jamaica would come out. Oswald would come out. Some of the other reggae groups would come out, but then we would go to their show and just listen to the lineage, because they were Jazz Jamaica were the younger generation to the Scatolites. But they had another twist on things.
I was in that band for about 2 albums, actually. One of my another keyboard hero, Bigger, he was in the band, and then he left and I joined, and for a while I was playing with the older generation. They're still around. Tantan on trombone, Groko on percussion, and then there was Alan Weeks and Kenrick Rowe was playing for a while, and I learned a lot. there.
And the
they're
bass
still
player,
going.
the bass player,
Gary
Gary, yes,
Crosby.
Right, Gary Crosby. He was kind of like when I was hanging out with those guys, he was kind of like the kind of leader of the group at the time. He was the one kind of holding everything together. Gary, great dude. And what I loved about it, it was all upright. They were laying all Jamaican stuff down on the upright.
Yeah. He's devoted, and he's carried that through with his wife Janine, and they've got an education program, and they push out generations of musicians through the vessel of, they call it Tomorrow's Warriors, and then there's also Jazz Jamaica, and they've stuck at it for decades now. All respect to them.
Wow, man, that's great to know. That's I'm just making my notes on that, because that's Gary husband. No, not Gary husband. Gary Crosby. Yes. Yep. Yeah, man. He was a great musician, man. It still is a great musician.
Yeah.
So I didn't know you was part of that group. That's good to know. See, you learn something every day. So that's good. So your trio is very versatile. You're doing a number of projects with different amazing musicians, and then you have this project with Carol going on, and you're creating a lot of her work with some of those musicians from Jazz Jamaica. So you're staying very busy. I love that. You're staying very busy. And what I'm equally excited about is that you're doing it over there in Switzerland. So a lot of the music is being, shared on an international level. That's what I'm enjoying. That's what I'm really hearing, and it's being done by some quality musicians that knows the history and and understand the background. There's a huge scene coming out of England that a lot of people don't know about, and that's one of the things I'm very, of the first show we had my good friend Jean Toussaint.
Yes,
and John filled us in with a number of things that he's been doing, and really kind of set the tone and made me start to rethink of some of my guests. I'm like, man, I got to get some of these cats from in Europe that's doing all of these things.
Yeah. You're spoiled for choice. Really, between over there in the Caribbean, America, London, and some places here in mainland Europe as well. The challenge will be who to invite next, I imagine.
Well, that's part of the challenge now, but it's great talking with you guys. such a wealth of knowledge, man, and so
Thank
much
you.
musicianship, so much musicianship. So I want to jump back into some of your music because you shared with us some wonderful songs, and I want our audience, we could keep talking forever, but I want our audience to hear you play as well so they can know the great Alice Wilson musically. They can hear you musically. So you have a song that you shared with us called Josephine. Just tell us a bit about that.
Well, this artist walked into my studio a year ago now, just over a year. And she said, she's a soul singer and she loves salsa. I said, okay, that's right up my street. Let's start playing. And then she said, well, actually, I've got a close connection to Ghana. And she used to live there. And she's got a very close friendship with a woman there, a younger woman. She's I wouldn't say she's her mother, but she's not a godmother. But there's that really close, strong connection. And she said, this is a love song for her. And I thought, how nice, a love song through friendship. And then we were, you do backwards and forwards. It's so nice to actually be in person because we talked a lot about the online thing, but it's great to just sit next to someone and create. And then I was playing around and I've done an album called Mali Latino. I went to Mali and I studied with a kora player. And we brought the Malians to England, and then we recorded our album in Real World Studios, in Peter Gabriel Studios, and it's called Mali Latino. It's a nice album, but I don't have any videos, which is why I didn't propose it for this one, this show. And I said, well, I have learned the kora on the piano. I started to play around. She said, I love kora. Please put that into the music. So long story short, we did this salsa soul tune with a Ghanaian influence, and I used Alfred Bannerman, Carrie Bannerman, an elder statesman of the guitar from the song Osibisa, the group Osibisa. Yeah, and he's a guitarist from there. We got him in. So we produced this song called Josephine, and she sings with her wonderful voice. We got this African salsa. The video that we will hear is an unplugged version featuring my trio and this artist, Issa.
Okay, great. Let's hear it, Josephine.
Girl, if you need a place, come home to me when it rains. You can share it all with me. I'm listening carefully, my queen. Even though we're far apart, nothing will change my love. I keep all these memories here with me. Moments when we sat and watched the sea. A place where you can't let go. A place you can call your home. I want you to follow all your dreams. I'll be your pillow if you need it. Seasons pass by and leaves are falling off the trees. This won't change a thing for you and me. The breeze is carrying your sweet voice, telling me just wait patiently right here for me. Remember those times, the night on our couch, sharing joy and tears with you. Wish I could be with you to hold you. Remember those times we danced through the night, left our footprints in the sand under a million points of light. When the sun is rising, it shines on your skin. It's warmth to strengthen you as you walk bravely. Girl, you can share it all with me. I will be listening carefully, even though we're far apart. And nothing's gonna change my love. I got our memories. You know you've got a place inside my heart. A place in my heart.
Very nice. A beautiful love song.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I really enjoyed co-writing that with Issa. And as you heard a little bit at the end there, you could hear the original track with the kora and the guitar. And I encourage
Yes,
people to go online and check out the full version as well.
that's great. That's great. You said she just walked into your studio one day and you guys just started having a conversation and putting this together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Nice.
you never know how it's going to end, you know. It's just like follow the line, have the courage to follow the line. And the nice thing working with her is she's a yes person. So, you know, you work with people like that. So we'll try that. Okay, yes. And then if it doesn't work, that's fine. But let's try. And I think as artists, we need to take risks, you know.
Great. And you did that nicely. And again, it features your trio in a very nice, intimate musical setting. And it sounds really beautiful. That's great.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations on that project. Yes. You have another song I wanted to just jump into right away because I want our audience to hear some more of the work that you've been doing. You have a song called Lower. It's a track called Lower. And it kind of features you in a dual platform, correct?
Yeah, it's another collaboration. And this is a gentleman, a young musician. I mean, this guy's on fire. This guy's on fire. He's from Nicaragua. He's come to England recently, political refugee actually, and managed to gain official status here with the right to work and so forth. So that was his first battle. But the reason I work with him, it came to my attention, is he's at that age, and I'm sure you remember this, when you're in your 20s, and all you do is you go to your bedroom and you practice. And he practices hours and hours and hours. And, you know, every time we Zoom like this, you can see him, his little bedroom with just guitars everywhere, you know. And I find that so inspiring. And you can hear it in his playing. The guy is a virtuoso. So he's a young guitarist. He's called Omar Rios. And he very generously invited me to play on his EP. We're going to launch it in London in March at the Pizza Express Live in Dean Street. And this was like a warm-up version of the song before we recorded it.
Okay. Well, let's hear it. Lower.
The world premiere of Lower.
That's nice.
The joy of live music, kind of working at the end. They're kind of working it out as we go along, and like it's that risk-taking thing, It's
Oh yeah,
great
man, but it
for the audience
works.
with us,
Oh yeah, it works. I mean that's a really, I like the two sections, and how we went from the nice, beautiful, romantic piece up front, and with amazing technique, man. He's got some amazing technique, and then to the
He's amazing.
nice salsa vibe at the
Yeah.
end.
He's
Great,
one
man.
to watch. He's one to watch. He really is, young Omar.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely. I can hear that. I can hear that. Your trio, man. Again, the versatility. Demetrius was on electric that time, and it's really
And
nice.
next year, and thank you. And next year, I want to take my trio in a new direction, because it has been that quite like the Omar Puente, the kind of acoustic setting. But we're going to meet in January and February and reinvent and kind of version 2.0. So yeah, watch the space.
Nice, great. Well, man, it's been so informative, and it's such a pleasure having you on the show, man. Any last words before we can stay here and talk forever, but we have a
we can talk about the diaspora forever.
Exactly. Any upcoming shows or any special projects that you're working on you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, there's hopefully some more shows with the project we did together with Samuel Blaser. It's a complicated, large ensemble, but he's such a trooper. I'm sure he'll make it happen. I think we got one in Germany, possibly. I'm working with Burhan Özçal, who's a Turkish percussionist. He's a virtuoso. He's also a Netflix actor, so he's real character. He plays like the pirate and the bad guy, gangster, and then he comes and plays this virtuosic darabuka. And I work with Heiri Kenzig, a Swiss bass player. The three of us have got a trio together. The Carol Thompson project we spoke about. And I'm actually in January going to be on the other side of the mic and present 4 shows on Jazz FM in London about Latin music every Saturday evening on in January. So, and then I'm going to just sit down and practice, because there's no gigs in January. And I've got to practice. I've got to get better. That's simple as that.
That's
get better.
That's an ongoing saga, man. We gotta, you gotta go in the woodshed all the time.
Gotta do it.
Great, man. Well, it's really good to hear that you're busy and you have a lot of projects going on. Not only a pianist, composer, arranger, but you're a wonderful producer, and you've shared a lot of information today with our audience. And I know you've gained some new fans, and we hope that they follow you and support you. And we wish you continued success in all that you do. And I would like to close out the show with your last
Yes.
Aquabayo,
Yes.
right? That's the last
Yes.
composition.
Yes, and very briefly, it's inspired by the Afro-Colombian tradition, and it's one of the more, definitely one of the more African Latin rhythms, not the traditional Cuban thing that you think of. And it was a composition of mine I wrote in homage to the Afro-Colombian tradition, Agua Bajo, and it was recorded during lockdown.
Okay, great. Well, let's hear it. Aquabajo.
Thank.
Aqua Bayo. That's really nice, man. And you said that was recorded during the pandemic.
Damn it. It was a festival that booked us and they had to cancel us. And they said, well, could you record? You record instead. And they paid us like a modest fee. And I did a half-hour long program with all the people I would have played with. You know, there was a singer, there was Nolita Golding on vocals. There was and so we you know, from all our different, you know, you can see we've got our pandemic faces on. we all recorded from our houses.
Nice. That's great, though, man. Again, it shows the versatility of your trio and the musicians that you work with. Yeah. I really enjoy listening to Edwin on the cajon and utilizing that. It's an amazing instrument. A lot of people don't really know all of the sounds you could get out of that one little box.
Yeah, man.
But you have a great trio, man. Again, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know it's a big time difference, but continued success to you, my good friend Alex.
Well, thank you, and I hope we share the stage again one day. I really do, because I so enjoyed it when we played in Finland. It was just that one magic moment, you know, before the pandemic. I'm so glad that we managed to connect, and we hope post we can do it again.
There you go. Likewise. Well, thanks for joining us, the one and only Mr. Alex Wilson.
Thank you so much.
Man of many musical talents.
Thank you.
So join us next week as we bring to the stage one of my dearest friends and amazing musicians, another pianist that we will be presenting as we feature the one and only Trinidadian-born Mr. Michael Darmani as he brings his sounds of the diaspora to us. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dion Parson.